piggybacks off of chapter 4, where we started talking about networking. I'm going to go briefly through the chapter because I want to show you a video tonight about setting up your LinkedIn accounts, because you will be setting up a LinkedIn account um, for this assignment for today. And so I want to make sure I show you this video on how to get that going. The video is also posted in the classroom, but I do want to show it here just in case anybody has any questions. So with that being said, let's just talk really briefly about what's going on in chapter 5. So when we talk about networking, um, as I've stated in the past, networking is very, very important to your career. Here on the screen, it says that 70% of job seekers find success through networking. So that means that, most times people are finding jobs through people that they know, whether it's personal, whether it's a reference, whether it's on LinkedIn or not. And, honestly speaking, is one of the best ways to find a job is through someone that you know, because they can vouch for you, even if it's very casual knowledge, a next door neighbor, a peer, a coworker, somebody that you were in school with, right? If they have built a rapport with that person or that person trusts them, a lot of times, you'll get an opportunity just based on their reputation, not even yours. So it's so good to network. Also, it's important to be online, not just for networking, but also so recruiters can see you. Here it says that 87% of recruiters find people through LinkedIn. They're using LinkedIn and they're using their taglines and what you put in your about sections that we'll go over tonight to find individuals. And so, lastly, we already know that they're also using applicant tracking systems. Over 75% are using these applicant tracking systems to find people. So it's also good um, for those keywords, as we already know, to be in your resume and also even on your LinkedIn profiles, so that when they are looking for people, you have the proper terminology available. So where can we network? Yes, we can obviously network on LinkedIn, like we just discussed, but other places too, in your church, places that you volunteer, when you go to job fairs. Nowadays, job fairs, are not even for applying for jobs, because when you do go to a job fair, they're just going to tell you to go to their website to apply. They're just there to answer any questions about the company nowadays. It's not like back in the day where you could actually apply for a job and fill out applications at these job fairs. Now it's just, oh, we're here to answer any questions, and then they send you to a website. But you can at least network. You can put face to a name. Sometimes they can say, oh, here's my card. Reach out to me after you've gone online and applied for that job. So it's still good to try to network at these job fairs. Anywhere there's an existing network, if you know of, a company. Sometimes companies do events too. You'd be surprised. And, going to those events, talking to these individuals. Let's say they do a groundbreaking ceremony, or they do a, hey, we're new in the neighborhood. A lot of city officials and government entities, host events and stuff, because they're always trying to attract business to your town. So there's so many opportunities to network. And as you go through your career, you'll start to get a hang of, which networking events are important for you, for your specific, industry, and which are not as important. But at the end of the day, what is networking? It's basically talking to people, and you're establishing these relationships that can lead to potential job opportunities, right? How do you network? Well, you can have a professional network that, it consists of people and individuals that you do business with, that you have, coworkers previously, and your current coworkers. But you can also network using informational interviewing. That's why we wanted you to practice that with the exercise of talking to a director. What is informational interviewing? It's basically interviewing and asking advice of directors from a professional rather than, just asking for a job opportunity. You're asking for advice, and people love to give advice. So, informational interviewing is a form of networking. It's important when you do network that it's not, you don't have an all about me mindset. Like, people are in your network. People do understand that you are connected to them because for business, but they still expect you to have some type of reciprocation. They still expect you to, help them out when they need it, provide a reference when they need it, give them a shout out if they post, oh, I got promoted, or "Yeah, I'm starting a new business. Hey, I'm hosting a webinar online." They expect that reciprocation. If you're the type of person that you don't even give a thumbs up to people, they may feel a certain way when you try to reach out to them and say, hey, I see your company has a new position. Can you refer me? They're gonna be like, man, as many times I reached out to you and you didn't even support me. So you don't want to just support, when you need something. You want to, keep that relationship going, even if it's just a simple, congratulations. You'd be surprised how far that goes. Your network is going to expand and contract, as you go on through your career. You may even switch careers again. And so your network will change. Some people you'll have there for a minute, though. I've had people in my network for 20 years. I have people reach out to me and ask for references from like 15 years ago that I worked with them. And I still do it because at the end of the day, it's part of my network, and that's how I keep my network going. I stay connected. So, face to face networking is always going to be superior to any other form of networking because we are human and it is human nature to connect with one another, right? So, face-to-face networking, anytime you get an opportunity to do that, I'm always going to encourage you to do that. Bring your business cards. Make sure that you are, getting as many contacts as you can, and talking to as many people as you can, because that's the time for people to really get a sense of who you are. But make sure that you follow etiquette. There's always, a networking etiquette, which is basically, you know, simple stuff. If you go to an event, make your rounds, don't stalk one person, understand that everybody wants to reach out to everybody. Sometimes people get a little shy and they like find somebody and they cling on to them and they hold that person hostage all night. Like, don't do stuff like that. You're there to try to meet as many people as possible. I always tell people, if you're ever going to an event, try to find out who's going to be at that event, even if it's just the speakers will be at that event, so that you can, make your rounds and get to know them. Again, there's so much can be done just from connecting with people. So much can be done just from connecting with others. All right. So if there is in-person etiquette, obviously you want to dress appropriately. You don't want to arrive late, have your cell phone off, all that type stuff, right? Watch your language. I know that, may sound crazy, but obviously, when in Rome, do as Romans do. Sometimes, people can forget, hey, I gotta, switch up, I'm not out in the field, I'm at this corporate event, I gotta be careful what I say. Even myself, having transitioned from the military, and in the military, trust me, there's definitely a different vernacular that some people use, while they're in the military. And, I've seen a lot of my military brothers and sisters, have a hard time when they transition into civilian life because, we're so used to being out, in the woods and training on the field and doing all kinds of crazy stuff. We also had, office time, we had to button up and wear our uniforms, but when we transitioned, into civilian life, you have to change it up. You can't say the things that you would say, you can't tell the jokes that you would normally tell, you know so it does require you to understand that when you're in a certain environment that you need to, follow the protocols of that environment. So online networking also has its own, etiquettes, everything from, don't overstalk someone, obviously don't, you know, with LinkedIn, you are expected to DM people. That's the one difference between other social platforms. Like people expect you to DM. I get DMs all the time on LinkedIn, but don't overdo it. Don't stalk a person. Don't, you know, um, be inappropriate and stuff like that. But when you are online, there's a lot of benefits because you can network with so many people. Like if you're trying to move to California, you can build a whole network online before you even move to California, which is one of the great things about online networking, right? So there's so many benefits to it if you use it properly. If you plan on moving, I'm hoping to move again in the future, and I'm trying to figure out like, if I'm going to go this state or that state, and I'm doing all my research online. I'm building networks already in those various states just in case, right? Like I want my move to be as seamless as possible. And so I'm trying to do it all right here in Central Florida so that when I do get to wherever I'm going, I already have a network up and running. So there's so many benefits to online networking if you do it right. Like I was just saying, of course, there's etiquette that you need to abide by, just not being negative, not overdoing it, not, reaching out to strangers and being too demanding. But, hopefully that goes without saying. So aside from that, that's one of the reasons why, we want to make sure that you set up a LinkedIn account in this class, even if at minimum you're like, okay, I'm just going to set this thing up just so, I can get my grade. That's fine too, because you can always, delete it if you don't want it. But it is our responsibility to make sure that you know how to do it, because there are companies that will ask you, where's your LinkedIn account? And you want to be like, I don't know how to do that. Like you at least need to know how to do it. So it's our job to make sure you know how to do it. So you will be setting up your LinkedIn accounts. Now, if you already have a LinkedIn account, it'll be easy for you because this assignment, you're just going to, submit your URL. I'm going to show you how to do that in a minute. But if you don't have a LinkedIn account, and even if you do have a LinkedIn account, I want you to pay attention to what the video is going to show, because she's going to walk you through all the different sections on LinkedIn. Now, for the assignment, the only thing I'm looking for are the things on the screen here. I just want to make sure that your profile has some type of headline, some type of about me section, experience and education. Don't worry about writing this down. This is in the assignment. But she's going to walk you through how to upload all of these different sections on LinkedIn. So what I'm about to do now, I'm going to share my LinkedIn so you guys can see exactly what I want to see for the assignment in terms of what I want you to turn in. So I'm going to just put my LinkedIn account up really quickly. So if you see here, let me just move this. Let me see, can I move that? Let's see if I can make this a little bigger. But anyway, if you see here on my LinkedIn account, right now this is called a landing page. But if you notice up in the URL right here, I'm technically not on my account yet. You have to go down here to your profile page. And if once I click on my profile page, you'll notice this URL, it changed. And you see here now it has my name. It says Cynthia Taylor. This is what you need to turn in. So once you have your LinkedIn account, or if you already have it, all you're going to do is double click here, and you're going to right click and copy this. I want you to copy that. And this is what you turn in, because I want to be able to just click on your LinkedIn, which I will do, to go straight to your page. If you go to here to this home, it's just going to be your news feed. If you copy this and send it to me, it's not going to take me anywhere. It's going to just give me an error. So you're not going to get credit for just turning in the news feed. You have to do your profile. The professor in the video that I'm about to show you, she's going to say, I'm going to show you, meaning her, she's saying, I'm going to show you how to set up your LinkedIn. But she's going to say, before I show you that, you need to have already signed up for LinkedIn. It's very simple to sign up for LinkedIn. You sign up for it the same way you would any other social media platform. You go start account. It's going to ask for basic information, first and last name, I think your birth date and the city and state you live in, very basic, and whatever email address you want. And then it's going to take you to your profile shell where you can start to put in all the different sections. And if you'll notice in your profile section, each section has this little edit right here. This looks like a little pencil where you put in the sections, right? So this first section here, and it's a section similar to our modules. If you notice how it has that little box, you see that this is the first section, and it has your photo, your name and title, and then that tagline. And if you guys remember the tagline that I told you, that you can actually use your profile statement if you want, right? And then the next section that you're concerned about is the about section. These two sections here, you can tell it's not something that you add in because there's no little pencil. This is just little information that LinkedIn gives, so you can skip over that. You probably won't even see that when you're setting it up, but you will see the about section. Now I copied and pasted from my summary. I'm not going to lie, I changed it a little bit, but you can, if like that summary profile from your resume, which is why I wanted you guys to have that, you can literally copy and paste it here. And then the next section is experience. Now you can just copy and paste from your resume. The professor is going to talk about how you can change that a little bit, and like I don't do exactly everything from my resume, but the different, positions and a little blurb I just do for my resume, but you can actually speak in, first person here and be a little bit more creative. And then the last section is your, what did I do? Your education section. And then here, this is where you would put, whatever school you graduated from. Now, she's going to talk about a lot more than just this, but I wanted to make sure you understood that, this is what I'm looking for. She's actually going to talk about all these other sections that you can use on LinkedIn. Like a lot of them you won't use all in one sitting. Trust me, there's so many sections of LinkedIn I have not even used yet. They even have like a LinkedIn University, I think, right? You can get a whole certification and professional certificates on LinkedIn. They have so much. But what I'm about to do now is I'm about to go ahead and run the video. The video runs about 15 minutes. That's why I kind of rushed through this, because I wanted you guys to get to the video. And then I'll come back and give you your participation question for the day. So let me go to our classroom. I always have so many of these up. I think it's here. And the video, if you see here now, of course, your home screens are. What's wrong, Jimmy? You get okay. You're doing these emojis, man. You're freaking me out. Okay. Yours is orange, but same type thing. So if we go down to actually modules, what am I doing? See right here, it says LinkedIn. Again, just if you want to watch it again on your own, but.
If you were a CEO, what's the one move you would make to future-proof your business?
One, I wouldn't pressure myself to future-proof the business.
You guys can hear it, right?
Are you wondering how to get started on LinkedIn so that you can create a profile that stands out from your competition? Maybe you're wondering what information to include in your profile and what information just isn't relevant. If you're not confident when it comes to using LinkedIn, then tune in, because in this video, you'll learn exactly what you need to do to get started on LinkedIn so that you can show your real potential and land higher quality career opportunities.
If you need to turn it up, you can just turn it up on your own computer.
And hey, if you want even more powerful LinkedIn profile tips, make sure you take a look at my free 5-day LinkedIn mini course where you'll learn how to optimize your LinkedIn profile. I'll link the course below. And if we've never met before, I'm Heather Austin from ProfessorAustin.com and the Career Club on Facebook. And on this channel, I teach working professionals just like you how to build their personal brand so that they can land their dream job and grow in a field they love. So if you're new here, make sure you hit the subscribe button down below. Also, don't forget to hit the bell notification so you're notified when I publish a new video or when I go live every week. And hey, real quick, tell me in the comments below this video, what do you struggle with the most when it comes to using LinkedIn? Let's continue the conversation down there. Now, before we jump over to the computer for an easy step-by-step tutorial, there's a few things to keep in mind when it comes to using LinkedIn. Think of LinkedIn as your personal sales page. It's one of the only professional social media platforms where you can sell yourself, look for new job opportunities, and network with others in your industry. So if you're someone that's trying to get noticed by hiring officials, grow your personal brand, or even grow your own business, you definitely need a strong LinkedIn profile. Not only that, LinkedIn now has 600 million users, with 2 new users joining the platform every second. LinkedIn is not slowing down anytime soon. Now, this tutorial that I'm gonna walk you through assumes that you already have a LinkedIn account created. If you don't already have an account created, you need to go to linkedin.com to set your account up. And then once you're done with that, come back to this video and I'll walk you step by step how to get started on the platform. So let's jump over to the computer.
So here we are looking at my LinkedIn profile, and I'm going to walk you through the steps to help you get started using LinkedIn. Now, step number 1 is to start with the basics. So what do I mean by starting with the basics? You always want to make sure that you start with your headshot and your LinkedIn headline. Now, when it comes to a really good headshot, you want to make sure that the picture you use has you smiling, has you dressed appropriately for your industry. You also want to make sure that you're looking directly at the camera and that we can see you really well. So you don't want to take a full body shot. My recommendation is to take a headshot that is from the waist or from the elbows up. And also make sure that you're not wearing hats and sunglasses and anything that might be a little bit distracting. Another thing to keep in mind when it comes to a good headshot is to make sure that you're not using selfies. And here's the key. LinkedIn profiles with professional headshots actually get 14 times more views. So if you can, make sure you get a professional headshot in there. Now let's talk about the headline. So when a really good LinkedIn headline, you want to make sure that it grabs the attention of anyone that might be viewing your profile. Now, think of your headline as your tagline. These are keywords and keyword phrases that others might be using on LinkedIn to find you. Now, by default, LinkedIn actually uses the job title of your current or most recent position. So my recommendation is to change that. Now, you'll notice in my example here, I actually am just using my title for my business. Now, I'm not a job seeker, so my headline might be written a little bit differently than yours. If you are a job seeker, you want to make sure that the headline you use is tailored to the position or to the industry that you want to go in. And of course, always making sure you use as many keywords and keyword phrases in there. Now, you do have up to 120 characters to use inside your headline. I'm not necessarily recommending that you use all 120. Just make your headline as long as it needs to be. Now, you also want to make sure you incorporate your specialty. So your specialty will help you get found in searches if others are looking for individuals that might do what you do. So here's an example. Let's say that I was a senior project manager. So one way that I could spice up my headline is by saying senior project manager specializing in implementation and relationship management. Now, step 2 to getting started on LinkedIn is the About section. So I'm going to scroll down on my profile to show you what my About section looks like. I'm going to go ahead and click on the edit icon to pull up the About section. And I can even click on this toggle to make this section a little bit larger so that you can read it better. Now, when it comes to a really good summary, you want to make sure that you have it organized. You want to intrigue your audience or intrigue your viewer to keep reading more. Now, the About section is such a great way to share your skills, your talents, and your expertise a little bit more in detail. It's also the perfect place to let your personality and character shine. Now you'll notice inside the About section, there's two main areas. You have your summary and then you have your media. Let's talk first about the summary. The summary section needs to address who you are, who you help, and how you help them. You want to start with a sentence that mentions what you are most passionate about and what drives you most about your career. So if you look at my example, notice I say career and business strategy is my passion. And then I go on to say, I am a driven business owner dedicated to teaching. And then I mention a little bit more in there. After you've mentioned what you are most passionate about and what drives you, you want to then include a paragraph that mentions your greatest accomplishments or even some of your greatest strengths. So you'll notice that I go on to say, my greatest strength is in helping others find solutions and strategies to launch their perfect career. So you can use this exact same format when you write your own summary. Now, to make your summary section easier to read, you want to make sure you're using paragraphs that are no longer than 2 to 3 sentences. And you can use bullet points to break up the content and make it so that the viewer can easily read your information. So you notice in this example, I just have an arrow bullet point that I am using to break up the content. Now, if you want to learn other symbols that you might be able to use inside of LinkedIn, just go to Google and type in symbols for LinkedIn profile, and you'll come up with quite a few options. My recommendation is not to go overboard with the symbols. I've seen a lot of people that try and stuff their headlines and their summary to get attention using symbols and bullet points, and I don't recommend doing that. I like using them, but not in an extreme way. Just use them enough so that it breaks up the content and it keeps your reader easily viewing your profile. After your bullet point section, you can then go ahead and include an expertise section. Now, my summary section is written as a business owner. Yours will be very similar, but at the very end, you always want to make sure you have some sort of specialty or expertise section. Now, this section is keywords and keyword phrases that will show up in a job posting that you can put into your profile so that, again, you can be found in search results. Now, after the summary section, you also have the option to add media. So you can add a link to external documents, photos, sites, videos, and even presentations. Now, inside of my media section, I've just uploaded a handful of videos from my YouTube channel. These are videos that are viewed most often. So I've popped them here into my LinkedIn profile. So you can consider what type of media options do you want to add to your LinkedIn profile. Okay, moving on to the third step to get started on LinkedIn, and that is going to be your experience section. So I'm going to scroll down to the experience section, and you'll notice as I'm scrolling down, I have my dashboard. Now my dashboard is unique to me, just as your dashboard will be unique to you. And then I also have my activity. So this is going to be, again, unique to you. But I'm going to scroll down to the experience section, and this is where I would start adding all of my experience. So think of your experience section as a better way to tell your career story. The point to the experience section is to really show your audience who you are and how you got to where you are. Remember that LinkedIn is a little bit more informal than your resume. So this is the perfect opportunity to let your personality and your character shine. In fact, inside your LinkedIn profile, you actually can write in first person, which I always recommend you do. However, you don't want to write in first person on your resume. When it comes to the work experience section, I like to use 2 to 3 sentences in a couple paragraphs that explain some of the greatest accomplishments or some of the things that you were most proud of while you were in that position. And a bonus tip here is to include at least one quantifiable accomplishment. So these are things that you can measure based on a number, a data point, a percentage, maybe a dollar amount, or maybe even time. And to break up the content, you can add bullet points to your work experience section. Just make sure that you're not copying and pasting directly from your resume. And remember, you don't want to include too much information here. We just want to give the audience a teaser into some of the greatest things that you've done so that they will reach out to you to learn more about you. And another point when it comes to your experience section is to place keywords and keyword phrases that are showing up in the job posting inside that work experience section. The fourth step to help you get started on LinkedIn is your education section. So I'm going to scroll down past my work experience section all the way to my education section. Now, here's the great thing about your education section is this actually helps you build your career story. If you have been out of high school for more than 5 years and you have an associate's degree or maybe even a bachelor's degree, you don't need to list your high school education on there. Your education section allows you to list the type of degree that you received, the name of the institution that you received your degree from, and it even allows you to list any awards and honors that you received while you were at that institution. Now, this is a great place to add any special training or certifications that you've received that directly relate to your industry. Now, an example of this would be if I went to a trade school or some type of short-term training program. This is something like a certified nursing assistant. This could even be a commercial driver or a massage therapist. If you really want your education section to shine, you want to add things like your clubs or organizations that you participated in and any relevant coursework that might apply to the position or the industry that you are applying in. The fourth step to help you get started on LinkedIn is your skills and endorsements. So I'm going to scroll down to the skills and endorsements section here on my profile so you can see what I'm talking about. Now, this is a great way also to help you show what your expertise are. Now, LinkedIn will display the top 3 skills on your home page. So make sure you get those listed first and then add additional skills from there. LinkedIn does allow you to add up to 50 skills, but I don't recommend adding all 50 skills because I feel like that waters down your profile. I would start with the top 3 things that you want to be known for or that you are an expert in or that you specialize in, and then build on from that. Hiring officials use the skills section as a way to find talent. So if there is a specific skill set that you want to be recognized for, you need to make sure you add it to your profile. And keep in mind, if you add a new skill, it will take some time to accumulate endorsements for that skill. You only want to focus on the skills that you want to be known for. You want to get as specific as you can when it comes to your skills. So rather than adding the term training, which doesn't really tell me a lot, you could add something like corporate training. Now, these skills are what hiring officials, recruiters, and hiring managers are looking at when they view your profile. And over time, you may need to rearrange the top 3 skills based on what you want to promote about yourself and what you want to receive endorsements for. Now, the 5th step to getting started on LinkedIn is recommendations. So I'm going to scroll down to my recommendations section here, and I'll show you a little bit about that. Recommendations are the perfect way to get recognized for what you do. A recommendation is a statement written by another LinkedIn member to recognize or commend you for things that you've done on the job. So people who view your profile will often read the recommendations that you've received from your connections, and they'll see what others have to say about your work. One thing you can do is to ask for recommendations. So if I click on the ask for recommendations icon, it actually walks me through how to ask for a recommendation. Now, I recommend that you get as many recommendations as you can from individuals that are in leadership positions. So maybe previous supervisors or previous managers. You might even have a colleague that you worked with that thought really highly of you. I would highly recommend getting a recommendation from those types of individuals as well. And don't be shy about asking for recommendations. A lot of people will freely give you one if you just ask for it. And then I have a bonus tip for you to getting started on LinkedIn, and that is to check your security settings. So let's go ahead and review the security settings. You're going to click on the Me icon at the top LinkedIn page, and then you're going to click on settings and privacy. Now, there's a lot we could dive into inside this section, but I'm only going to cover a few key areas. The first one is the privacy tab. So the privacy tab covers all privacy and security settings related to what can see about you and how your information can be used. So let's go ahead and check out the edit your public profile. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that. And one thing I want you to be aware of on this page is how to edit your custom URL. So you notice at the top of the page, it says edit your custom URL. You can go ahead and click on that pencil icon. And if LinkedIn has not yet given you a custom LinkedIn URL, or if you have not yet created your custom LinkedIn URL, this is where you can do it right here. I always recommend using your name, some variation of your name if it's already taken. You could even add a middle initial if you need to. Anything that shows who you are so that your LinkedIn profile isn't a string of letters and numbers. So I'm going to go ahead and cancel out of this. And the other area that I want you to be aware of on this page is the edit visibility. So this allows you to control your profile's appearance for people who are not signed in to LinkedIn. It also goes on to say the limits you set here affect how your profile appears on search engines, profile badges, and permitted services like Outlook. So this is a fantastic way to make sure you are showing certain sections that you want to show and maybe not showing other sections that you don't want to show. So again, go through that and make sure that you have your settings exactly how you would want them. Now I'm going to go ahead and click on the back button because I want to jump back to another section inside of our privacy, and that is your job seeking preferences. So I'm going to click on job seeking preferences, and that takes me to a number of options inside of the LinkedIn page. Now, one of my favorite areas inside this section is the job applications setting. So this allows you to choose what information LinkedIn saves when you submit a job application. So you can go in there and make sure that your settings are exactly how you want them to be. Another area in here that I really like is the let recruiters know you're open to opportunities. This allows you to share that you're open and appear in recruiters' searches when they enter a keyword or a keyword phrase to find a specific individual in your area or with your expertise.
Now that you know how to get started using LinkedIn, make sure you take a look at the video I made right here.
All right, I knew that was a lot. That's why I did post it in your classroom, but hopefully that gives you a glimpse of all the different things that LinkedIn can do, right? And like I said, take some time to explore it even beyond this class, and continue to use it. I mean, I still haven't used all of its functionality yet, but it's really a great resource. All right. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and post your participation question. This question, I realized once I looked at it, it's worded a little awkwardly. So let me just translate. Basically, I just want to know, does ethics play a role in how you view a company? So would the reputation of a company influence whether you worked for them or not? Just tell me yes or no, why or why not. That's just the question for the day. All right. All right, y'all. If we don't have anything else, I'm going to let you go. Thanks for coming, and I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Have a good evening.